Hi everyone, I'm Jim, your companion on this healing journey out of emotionally lopsided relationships. Maybe you've landed on this video in a raw moment after walking away from someone avoidant and you feel invisible, abandoned, left behind, while they seem just fine, in a way that feels brutally indifferent. But let me tell you something, they're not fine, not even close. Today, I'm going to share a radically different lens, a truth that few dare to voice. The avoidant isn't detached, they're obsessed with you. Not in the way you might hope, not with healthy love or commitment, but with a deep, internal turmoil where they both crave and fear the emotional intensity you represent. In this video, drawing respectfully under fair use from a profound source, Jordan Insights, I'll help you understand what's really happening inside an avoidance emotional landscape, why they feel your absence so deeply, and more importantly, how to become unforgettable without ever chasing again. If you're seeking truth, emotional maturity, and a love that doesn't come from lack, subscribe and watch till the end, because after today, you won't be waiting for answers from them anymore. You'll start finding the answers within yourself. When you see an avoidant person withdraw, act indifferent, or pretend not to care, you may think they're cold-hearted. But the truth is far more nuanced. They don't pull away because they don't care, but because they're overwhelmed by feeling deeply and they don't know how to process it. The very intimacy they crave triggers a profound fear, losing control, feeling exposed, being swallowed whole by emotion. Imagine you're standing close to a wall. Each step you take, the wall trembles. Not because you're too strong, but because you touch something hidden within them. Closeness becomes a danger signal. If I let someone in, I'll lose my defenses. This buildup of emotion, accumulated over time, causes the avoidant to recoil not because you're too much, but because what you bring forth surpasses their learned threshold. According to Jordan Insights, used under fair use, the avoidance emotional system isn't designed to receive true intimacy. Instead of seeing connection as nourishment, they view it as a threat, something that weakens them and triggers an intense fight-or-flight response. Yet it's exactly this authenticity that makes you unforgettable. When you maintain your self-respect, refuse to dramatize their withdrawal, and stop absorbing their emotional disconnection, you broadcast a clear, unshakable resonance, a frequency that doesn't consume, but stands firm. And here lies the paradox. They both want intimacy and fear it deeply. This is the silent wilderness they can't navigate it because they lack feelings, but because they were never taught how to regulate them. You aren't too much. You're the mirror of what they don't know how to hold. This isn't about power. It's about honoring your own emotional worth. When you remain steady, they can't forget you because you have offered something rare: presence without dependency, stability without suffocation. You don't need to do more. You simply need to be whole in the energy you bring. Don't respond to every test they send. Don't let their distance drag you down, because in their heart, they're looking at a reflection of what they've been too afraid to feel, and fear leaves an unforgettable echo. After understanding the inner conflict at the core of an avoidant, the longing for closeness clashing with the terror of being emotionally flooded, comes a deeper realization. You become unforgettable when you stop trying. This marks the emotional shift from part 1 to part 2, where the quiet power of calm presence begins to shine. Let's be clear, I'm not telling you to give up on love or to stop caring. I'm saying that it's steadfast silence, not dramatic efforts, that makes an avoidant pause and feel. It's not the ones who plead, beg, or justify themselves that linger in the mind of an avoidant. It's the ones who remain grounded without trying to be seen, who are calm without explanation, who need no validation. When you stop saying things like, "Please understand me," or "Don't leave," when you cease the efforts to be heard, your absence creates a gap they hadn't realized was yours to begin with. And in that space, emotion begins to rise not by your prompting, but by their own awakening. Your silence becomes a negative space that redefines emotions they refused to process when you were still available, trying to soothe them. As Jordan Insights highlights, with full respect to fair use, avoidants don't remember you because of your words or grand gestures. They remember you because of the energy you held when you were simply being yourself, steady, composed, and unattached. It's a frequency they can't categorize, can't dismiss, and certainly can't control. They can only feel it. You become the embodiment of unshakable self-respect. Your grounded reactions, not frantic, not manipulative, not desperate, become a powerful emotional imprint. Your energy speaks volumes, especially when you walk away with clarity, eyes bright, heart full of peace. That's what they remember, not your texts, not your apologies, but your energetic presence when you stop performing. And the irony? They don't text you saying, "I miss you," or "I was wrong." Instead, it shows up in softer ways. A quiet like on your photo, a vague "thinking about you lately" message. These aren't signs you've convinced them, they're signs you've disrupted their emotional system. The impact didn't come from you chasing, it came from the fact that you stopped. When you truly let go, not out of defeat, but out of growth, you become a model of what free, unattached love looks like. A love that doesn't tighten its grip to feel secure. A love that no longer clings to someone unwilling to meet it fully. And that is what they realize they once had and lost. You don't leave a mark through poetic words. You leave a mark by becoming a mystery they can't define, bold yet soft, absent yet vividly present in memory. You leave them not with words, but with energy. Not through chasing, but through being so fully whole that your presence becomes soul level. And once you've embodied that, you no longer need to ask them to remember you. They will feel the absence on their own terms, soon, explainably, viscerally, and in silence. Because you're no longer a memory they can explain. You're a presence they can't forget. After realizing the paradox at the heart of avoidance, the conflict between intimacy and fear, you've stepped into a different sphere where spoken words no longer hold power. Here lies the creation of the emotional imprint you leave on the avoidant subconscious. They don't remember you because of your heartfelt message or your grand gestures. They remember you because of the emotional frequency you carried: peace amidst chaos, stability and uncertainty, connection without judgment. It wasn't performance. It was the permission for space and authenticity. You showed them a way of being where emotions weren't overwhelming, but felt safe. According to Jordan Insights, an emotional imprint isn't stored in rational memory. It embeds itself in the emotional body, where even a single moment of deep calm or genuine acceptance can't be erased. Time passes, but they still find themselves silently wondering, why did I feel so free around them? Why can't anyone else make me feel that calm? When you stop performing, rid yourself of dependency, and refuse to chase them, you become an emotional anchor, a steady presence that refuses to be sewn into their chaotic pattern. They can't replicate it because you're not reciting a script. They can only remember how it felt when you were whole. That feeling didn't come from dramatic declarations. It came from a space where they could be themselves without fear. Even once, that permission leaves a mark. The impression becomes a vibration in their veins, something they feel, not think. That's why, even without a phone call or apology, they still feel you at the soul level. They feel the emptiness you left, balanced with your internal peace, the absence of drama and the presence of respect. It's a line drawn between relationships they thought they'd known and the one where love didn't require surrender. Through that imprint, you transmitted a silent message. I honor myself. I didn't diminish for you. And that energy became a form of self-respect they've never seen. Respect towards yourself, your emotions, and, implicitly, respect for them too. That mark isn't erased, it echoes in fleeting moments, in contrast with new relationships, in the question of what they lost. And if you're wondering how to sustain that energy daily, you've entered the next part. How to maintain your emotional frequency, where I'll explore practical strategies to keep your presence felt in a way they can't ignore. Sure, here's the full English translation of your text. After you've created an unforgettable emotional imprint, where you exist in the form of energy and sensations the avoidant can't even articulate, you are now ready to step into the next, more powerful phase. Detachment, empowered withdrawal. Detachment is not abandonment or coldness, but a state in which you protect your inner peace. It is when you pull back not to provoke them, but to honor your own self-respect and internal integrity. If imprint is about creating unforgettable emotions, then the stillness you maintain when you withdraw is what forces them to face the real loss, the loss of your stable presence. Do you remember how it felt when you kept trying and only received silence? Or when you poured your heart out only to hear, "I'm fine"? By stepping away, you break the familiar pattern. They can no longer manipulate your emotions through distance or your pleas. You are no longer entangled in their emotional game. You become the one who cleans up the game, invisible but impossible to ignore. Their internal landscape begins to shift. At first, they may pretend to be calm, "I'm fine," or choose to reply briefly. But you are no longer attached to that. You've chosen a different path. Inner calm, non-reactivity, no attached expectations. In that silence, they realize an undeniable truth. The moment they lost connection with you, they lost connection with a stable part of themselves, something they used to lean on that is no longer there. The astonishing thing is, your silence and stillness are stronger than any words. It is the sharp contrast between the peace you hold and the energetic trail they left behind. And that contrast is not pleasant. It touches the inner part they've kept hidden, where they realize they fear losing you, not because you're complicated, but because you are the center they can't possess. You don't need to explain, argue, or keep proving yourself. When you hold that state, not for them, but for you, that very energy becomes a mirror, reflecting their soul. They see the person who once waited is no longer there, but has left a void they don't know how to manage. And that is the moment they face their loss. In some cases, the avoidant will respond by trying to fill the void, a cold message, a nostalgic remark, or a hint of care. But it's not because you forced them, it's because the silence you created made them choose their own response. And when they react, you still hold your stillness without much reaction. You're holding to your own standard. I respect myself enough not to accept what doesn't come naturally. In that moment, you're no longer a restless lover. You become someone who knows how to love themselves. Eventually, you will see clearly. When you let go while still retaining dignity and inner peace, not only do you protect yourself, but you plant a seed in the avoidant's heart, a realization that if they don't know how to preserve a safe and mature presence, they will lose the person who created that space. And once they recognize the emptiness, they will have to learn how to face it. That is the true power of detachment, not the loss, but the catalyst that shows them they can either grow up or not. Transitioning from the state of detachment where you hold your silence and inner self-respect leads to an even deeper truth. They will remember you not by words, but by energy. Not because you created drama, not because you begged, but because you embodied emotional maturity and became less accessible. That's when they feel you in their soul, because you once showed up with a love that asked for nothing, and you left with a peace that required no justification. Imagine the sense of calm they once felt when near you, a strange stability, not because you said, "I love you," but because you radiated through your energy that you could stand tall without needing them, that you loved yourself enough not to expect them to hold you. In that moment, you became the embodiment of a love that doesn't control a love, unbound, yet deeply rooted. That didn't come from drama, but from the wholeness within you, and they won't forget it. And when you left peacefully, no arguments, no miracles, no promises, you left an impression no words could ever create. Not the television-style drama, not pleading, not explanation, but the emotional frequency you brought. They don't remember lines like, "I need you," or "You're everything to me." They remember the sense that you were worthy and able to stand strong even without them. According to insights from Jordan Insights, under fair use, what makes them feel you in their soul is that you gave them a standard of respect and maturity they rarely experience. A standard they can sense but cannot replicate, and that is an imprint they cannot erase. When you left not in anger or loud pain, but to protect yourself, they realize something. If they don't learn how to love in that way, they'll lose something truly rare. And remembering you is not easy, because the energy you left behind is a vivid format inside them. Every time there is silence, they feel the void you created, and they sense a part of you still lingering in their emotional space. They remember how calm they felt when you didn't control, but simply existed with sincerity, a state not easily imitated. That's why many avoidants won't call and say, "I miss you," or beg, but they will. Suddenly, like an old photo of you, send a subtle message like, "Hope you're doing well," or quietly play the music you once listened to together. It's not drama, it's an internal reaction born from the void you placed in their world, something that can't be filled with noise or shallow effort. They miss you because they once felt something all humans need most, the safety of being unpressured and seen. On a deeper level, you become an internal filter for them. They start comparing future experiences to the energy you left behind. No matter how great the next person is, It feels lacking if that person doesn't transmit the energy you once held, not intense emotions, but a structure of love rooted in honesty, respect, and freedom. That's what makes them think of you, not because nostalgia is easily triggered, but because you appeared in a way they cannot erase or dismiss. And when they recognize that the void you created, they truly face themselves. I once had that kind of love, and I let it go. And that becomes the transition from mere memory to a deeper question. Can I bring that kind of energy back into my life? Or at the very least, they realize you are a standard of emotional maturity, a mirror of what real love looks like, and they cannot casually move on without feeling the emptiness. When you leave in silence yet with unshakable self-respect, what remains in an avoidance mind isn't a specific image or memory, but the frequency of energy you once brought, something they can't put into words, yet profoundly feel is missing when you're no longer there. And it's precisely that void, the space you leave behind, that acts as a powerful catalyst for deep awakening. Not every avoidant will change, but if anything will make them pause and face themselves, it will be the feeling of having lost something precious, something irretrievable. At first, they may breathe a sigh of relief, no pressure, no explanations needed. But over time, your absence creates a clear internal contrast. New relationships feel barren, conversations sound hollow, connections remain surface level. Gradually, they come to realize that no one else brought the deep, peaceful, unguarded presence you once did. Like a haunting melody that unexpectedly stirs the soul, you created a vibrational frequency no one else can replicate. In that moment, they begin to remember you, not to return, but to acknowledge a profound loss. You were the person who helped them reveal the best version of themselves, a truer, less defended version. And when you disappeared yet maintained your luminous energy, you became the standard against which they ask themselves, I once had that, so why did I let go? In the end, what truly matters isn't whether they come back. It's that you've grown to a place where you no longer need them to validate your worth. You no longer seek approval, no longer react just to be seen, and no longer lose yourself hoping someone else will change. Instead, you are living from your wholeness, where you don't beg for love, you embody it. And no one can take that light from you unless you hand it over. The avoidant may remember you not because you screamed in pain, but because you left behind an energetic frequency that cannot be replaced. Once they feel the serenity you carried when you walked away, they'll realize it wasn't that you were too much, but that they were never ready for something that deep. And if one day they return, you won't be there to repeat the old story, not out of anger, but because you've moved on toward the light of healing, integrity, and a love that no longer depends on their readiness. Trust this: when you hold peace, self-respect, and awareness, you never lose. You're simply reclaiming your energy to give it to something more worthy. And that's what makes you unforgettable, not to them, but to yourself.